I stood in a room full of my son's laughing friends, my fingers turning white around the edges of a platter I'd spent a day and a night creating. And he, my own child, looked right through me and said the words that snapped the last fragile thread of my patience. "If it's bad," he chuckled, "we'll just feed it to the dogs." The room laughed, and something in me died, quietly. The part that always smiled, that always nodded, that always said, "Of course," just went silent. And in that silence, I made a decision. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't cry. I would teach my 25-year-old son a lesson in respect so profound. He would taste its absence for hours. Because the first thing that burned that day wasn't my hand on a hot pan. It was my chest. And by the time I was done, he was the one left empty. Hit that like button. Subscribe with notifications on, because what I did next, it didn't just change the party. Changed our family forever. My name is Amelia. And my story starts in the blue-hour stillness, just past midnight. The house was a sleeping creature. Upstairs, my husband, Robert, was lost in his soft, rumbling symphony of snores. Down the hall, my son, Dustin, turning 25, the big-shot junior executive, was in his cave, the blue glow of his phone under the door, the muffled laugh at some viral video, his only communication for the night. And then there was me, in the kitchen, tying my hair into a practical bun, the apron strings a familiar ritual around my waist. This wasn't just any cooking. This was a mission. Dustin had landed his first major promotion. Networking event, he called it. "Mom, it has to be perfect. You know, classy." Classy, to my son, meant food that whispered of home and heritage, but shouted of sophistication. No simple casseroles. He wanted the tastes of his childhood, but plated like a five-star restaurant. So I became a general planning a culinary D-Day. The chicken biryani. My mother's recipe. This isn't a dish you make. It's a dish you build. Layer by meticulous layer. Toasting whole spices until they popped with fragrance, frying the onions until they were the color of old gold, marinating the chicken in yogurt and grief. Because every time I make this, I miss her. I folded patience into every grain of basmati rice. This was alchemy. This was love made edible. Kebabs needed to rest in their spices overnight. The garlic and ginger paste had to be fresh, pounded by hand, not from a jar. The naan, I would cook it to order so it would be soft and blistered. 3 desserts. Because what if someone didn't like gulab jamun? What if the kheer was too plain? The chocolate torte was the backup, the safe Western nod to his colleagues. My feet swelled in my slippers. A dull, familiar throb took root at the base of my spine, climbing vertebra by vertebra. I'd glance at the clock, 3 a.m. 4 a.m. Sip cold, bitter tea. Wipe the sweat and flour from my forehead with the back of my wrist. And the only thing that kept me going was the mental movie I kept playing on a loop. Dustin, beaming, putting a proud arm around me. My mom made this from scratch. Isn't she incredible? The imagined nods of impressed guests. The validation. That tiny, hungry hope was my fuel. By sunrise, the kitchen wasn't just a room. It was a temple of scent. Cardamom, cumin, brown butter, caramelizing sugar. Smelled like memory. Like safety. I slept for maybe an hour, a fitful, dreamless crash on the couch, before the alarm tore me back to reality. The day blurred into a whirlwind of hiding the lived in parts of our lives. Fluffing pillows that no one would sit on. Polishing glasses that would instantly be smudged. I became a background character in my own home, a silent maid in an invisible uniform. Robert came down at 10, blinking at the culinary arsenal. He saw the towers of containers, the gleaming trays. "Amelia," he sighed, a tone of performative concern. "You didn't have to do all this. It was the script we'd followed for 25 years. He said the line, I nodded my line. The unspoken contract. You will do this, and I will pretend to notice. Then the guests arrived. A flood of crisp shirts, sharp blazers, expensive perfumes that clashed with my garlic and ginger. Laughter that was too loud, conversations about equity and APIs and synergies. They smiled at me. "Oh, you must be Dustin's mom," they'd say, with that polite, fleeting warmth you'd give a nice piece of furniture. And then their eyes would slide right past me, seeking someone more relevant. And Dustin, he was in his element. The charming host. The rising star. He looked handsome, confident. My heart ached with a pride that was already starting to feel thin, fragile. He breezed past the kitchen, not even registering the feast. "Mom," he said, not looking at me, but adjusting his expensive watch. "Can we push the food back? People want to mingle with drinks first. Make it more of a cocktail hour vibe." "Of course," I said. So I waited. An hour. Then another. The biryani, my layered masterpiece, was gently steaming, getting softer, past its perfect peak. The kebabs were weeping their juices onto the platter. I was a statue by the doorway, a silent sentinel guarding a love offering that was losing its magic by the minute. Finally, the signal. I began bringing the food out. My arms trembled, not from weight, but from exhaustion and a nervous hope. I placed the biryani, the crowning glory, in the center of the table. I stood back near the archway, my hands clasped. A young woman in a sleek black dress took a careful forkful. She nodded, turned. "Dustin, this is amazing. Is it from that new Indian fusion place on Grove?" My breath caught. I opened my mouth to speak. And then Dustin laughed. A big performative laugh. He clapped a friend on the shoulder. "Nah, it's from home. But hey, don't worry," he said, his voice rising to encompass the room. "If it's bad, we'll just feed it to the dogs." Time didn't slow down. Shattered. Into a million sharp, glittering fragments. The laughter hit me in the sternum. My smile froze solid on my face. My fingers clenched so tight my knuckles cracked. I looked at him, waiting for the glance, the wink, the "just kidding, Mom." Nothing. He was already turning away, grabbing a beer. I was wallpaper. The punchline to a joke about my own soul. And that's when the silence happened. Not in the room. Me. The constant inner monologue just stopped. In that void, I heard nothing but the echo of his joke and the frantic beat of my own heart. I slipped back into the kitchen. Dirty pans stacked in the sink. Spice-strewn counters. The remains of the feast. I stared at the half-empty biryani dish. A single bay leaf poked out like a flag on a ruined castle. I saw my mother's hands. I heard her voice. "We do this for family. It is our language. What if I stop? What if it doesn't have to be this way? What if the language I need to speak is action?" This wasn't rage. This was reclamation. Quiet removal of my consent. He thought my effort was disposable. Fine. I would dispose of it. On my terms. I moved calmly. I found the large catering trays. One by one I scooped, piled, sealed. The biryani. The kebabs. None. The desserts. I wiped the counters clean. I left the dirty pans in the sink. I loaded my car. Trip by silent trip. The community shelter was 10 minutes away. "I had a party," I said. "There was a lot left over." A woman lifted the lid. Her face transformed. "Ma'am, this is a feast. This is incredible. Thank you." And in that moment I finally understood what it meant to be seen. When I returned home, the atmosphere had curdled. Empty plates. Confused whispers. Dustin found me. "Mom, where is all the food? This is so embarrassing." "It's gone. Gone." "What do you mean gone?" "I gave it away." Silence. You what?" "Yes, Dustin. I know exactly how humiliating this is." The party ended soon after. Later he sat across from me at the table. "I was joking, Mom." "I know. Then why?" "Because jokes are truths wearing masks. And tonight, your truth was that my effort was disposable." "I didn't mean it like that. Meaning and impact live in different houses." He stared at his hands. "I'm sorry." The next morning I slept in. A week later he brought groceries home. My husband started loading the dishwasher. And I started resting. No. Cooking when I wanted. The revenge wasn't the empty table. That was the consequence. The real revenge was my liberation. Love should never be disposable. And if someone treats it like it is, maybe the most powerful thing you can do is simply take it off their menu.